The White House briefing room just became a battlefield. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt dropping truth bombs that have the fake news media running for cover. She's exposing how Biden let a terrorist who wanted to kill all Jews stay in America on an expired visa. She's revealing that ICE just arrested 1,500 violent criminals in Massachusetts, including, well, people that did unspeakable things to children. She's calling out the Washington Post for their mysterious fentanyl decline headline when Trump's policies are obviously working. The media can't handle a press secretary who fights back with facts. They're used to being coddled, not confronted. What happens when the most powerful podium in America starts telling truths the establishment wants buried? Well, you're about to find out, so keep on watching. And just as Karoline Leavitt strips away media lies, you can reveal the truth. You can strip away years from your appearance with the right collagen support. As we age, collagen production drops dramatically by our 40s. We're losing about 1% yearly, and that's why I use Ageless Multi-Collagen. It features 5 key collagen types from 4 premium sources, all hydrolyzed for easy absorption, no clumping, no odor, just smooth blending into your morning routine. Plus, it's clean, no GMOs, no artificial ingredients, no hormones, and every order helps feed hungry children through nokidhungry.org. So if you want to support that and your body, visit healthwithgary.com for 51% off today. You'll find it linked in the description. And just like collagen rebuilds what time breaks down, Karoline Leavitt is rebuilding trust in the White House press office by demolishing years of media deception. And what we witnessed in today's briefing was nothing short of a masterclass in combating fake news with cold, hard facts. The briefing opened with Leavitt addressing the Boulder Attack that the mainstream media tried to bury. She revealed the horrifying truth. The attacker was an Egyptian national who entered America illegally during the Biden administration, overstayed his visa, and was given work authorization instead of deportation. This monster used a makeshift flamethrower to attack Jewish Americans, including a Holocaust survivor, while they rallied for Israeli hostages. Watch.
I want to start by addressing the horrific act of violence that took place on Sunday in Boulder, Colorado. President Trump and the entire administration's hearts go out to the victims, and they are in our prayers during this unimaginable time. According to reporting from Fox News, the alleged attacker admitted in an interview that he wanted to kill all Zionist people and had been planning the attack for over a year and would do it again if he could. This monster used a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails to light Jewish Americans on fire in an attempt to burn them alive. The victims at the incident location in Boulder were there to rally in support of Israeli hostages who remain in Hamas captivity. 12 were injured, including a Holocaust survivor. This is pure evil. The Department of Justice has already filed federal hate crime charges against the alleged perpetrator, and he will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. This tragedy is a sobering reminder of the consequences of the Biden administration's failed policies. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the Boulder suspect is an Egyptian national who was in the United States illegally. He entered the U.S. during the Biden administration in August 2022 on a B-2 visa until it expired. Upon the visa expiration, he overstayed, filed an asylum claim, and was given a work authorization by the Biden administration. Instead of deporting this heinous individual, Joe Biden's administration allowed him to stay in our country and to work. President Trump sounded the alarm over these reckless Biden policies for years because this is the predictable result of letting anti-American radicals and illegal immigrants pour into our country. Immigration security is national security, and that's why the Trump administration, at the direction of our great president, has secured our border, strengthened our immigration system, and has taken immediate steps to protect the United States from foreign terrorists and other public safety threats. President Trump acted swiftly upon taking office to reform our visa issuance process to ensure that dangerous aliens who are intent on harming Americans or our national security interests are no longer admitted into our country. Under the Trump administration, aliens will only be admitted into the United States through the legal process and only if they do not bear hostile attitudes towards our citizens, our culture, our government, our institutions, or most importantly, our founding principles. Under President Trump, the United States has zero tolerance for foreign visitors who support terrorism. Violators of U.S. law, including international students, will continue to face visa denial or revocation and deportation. And illegal alien criminals will continue to be arrested and deported from our country.
Pure evil, enabled by Biden's refusal to enforce immigration law. This terrorist literally told authorities that he wanted to kill all Zionist people, and Biden let him stay. But Leavitt was just getting warmed up. She detailed Operation Patriot in Massachusetts, where ICE arrested nearly 1,500 illegal aliens in a state that calls itself a sanctuary. Over half had serious criminal convictions. The list of crimes will make your blood boil. Aggravated homicide, unspeakable acts to children, kidnapping, murder. One Brazilian was charged with, I don't even want to say these words, what they did to a child in possession of unspeakable images. Watch.
On that note, ICE and federal law enforcement partners just wrapped up a month-long surge operation arresting nearly 1,500 illegal aliens in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. During the enhanced operation, dubbed Operation Patriot, ICE Boston and other federal law enforcement personnel focused on transnational organized crime, gangs, and dangerous illegal alien offenders throughout Mass. More than half of the nearly 1,500 illegals arrested had significant criminal convictions or charges pending against them. Here are just some of the violent illegal aliens who were removed from communities in Massachusetts during Operation Patriot. A Salvadorian national with active Interpol red notice for aggravated homicide. A Guatemalan national and registered sex offender who had pending criminal charges in Boston for 5 counts of indecent assault and battery on a person 14 or over. A Honduran national who was last arrested for rape, indecent assault, and battery of a person 14 or over. A Colombian national charged with kidnapping, aggravated rape, and indecent assault and battery on a person 14 or over. And a Guatemalan national who was convicted of murder in Boston. Also, a Brazilian national who was charged with aggravated rape of a child by force and possession of child pornography. Again, these are people who were living in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And lastly, a Salvadorian national whose criminal history includes charges of aggravated rape of a child by force. I don't think anybody in this room wants these types of heinous criminals in your communities. And it's thanks to this administration that they are being removed from our country. When Democrat-run jurisdictions released violent illegal alien criminals back into communities after making arrests instead of turning them over to federal immigration enforcement like they should, those Democrats are putting law-abiding Americans at risk. And these insane policies force law enforcement officials to make much more difficult arrests that put their lives, our law enforcement lives, in jeopardy. President Trump is incredibly grateful for our heroic officers on the front lines getting these violent illegal alien invaders out of our communities. Law and order is back in America under President Trump.
Law and order is back. These are the immigrants that Democrats protected while calling Trump racist for wanting them deported. People doing unspeakable acts to children walking free in Massachusetts because liberals value virtue signaling over children's safety. Then came the moment that exposed media manipulation at its worst. The Washington Post published a headline calling the massive drop in fentanyl seizures at our border mysterious. And Leavitt absolutely torched them for this deliberate deception. I mean, there's nothing mysterious about it. Trump's border policies are working. Mexico deployed troops, surveillance increased, cartels are running scared. Watch.
The Washington Post just ran one of the most ridiculous headlines ever, even by their standards. And on my very first briefing several months ago, I said I would hold anyone accountable in this room. The Washington Post actually had this headline: the mysterious drop in fentanyl seizures on the U.S.-Mexico border. How is this mysterious? There is no mystery about why there is a decrease in fentanyl coming into the United States. This administration's strong border policies are the reason there has been a decrease in fentanyl trafficking. His strengthened relationship with Mexican President Sheinbaum and all of the measures he has been taking to deter illegal human and drug trafficking at our United States southern border is the reason for plummeting fentanyl seizures at the U.S. border. There is nothing mysterious about that, and we'd like to see the Washington Post update their headline accordingly. This is clearly trying to intentionally manipulate the minds of the Americans, and I think the American people understand why there's been a fentanyl drop. And our office responded to this inquiry. We provided a whole host of the reasons that fentanyl seizures at the southern border have dropped, and the Washington Post refused to run them, and that's despicable.
The Post refused to run the administration's explanation because it would credit Trump. That's not journalism. That's called propaganda. The economic news Leavitt delivered should be front-page material everywhere. Inflation dropped to 2.1%. Personal income increased 0.8%, triple what experts expected. The trade deficit saw its largest monthly decline on record thanks to Trump's tariffs. And here's the kicker. Egg prices dropped 61% since Trump took office. Watch.
Positive economic reports continue to flood in. Inflation dropped to 2.1% in April. Personal income increased 0.8% in April. So inflation is down and wages are up. That's almost triple the expectations and against the doubts of nearly everyone in this room. And we also saw the largest monthly decline in the trade deficit on record as a result of President Trump's very powerful tariffs. Lastly, the price of eggs has dropped more than 61% since President Trump took office in January. I remember my very first briefing, I was asked about the cost of eggs. The reporter tried to insinuate it was this administration's fault, even though he had only been here for a few days or weeks. It was a result of the previous administration's terrible policies, and in record time, this president has fixed that problem that he inherited from Joe Biden, and now egg prices have dropped 61% since this president took office.
Remember when the media blamed Trump for expensive eggs during his first weeks? Now that he fixed Biden's mess, crickets from the press. When asked about anti-Semitic violence, Leavitt didn't mince words. This administration has done more to combat anti-Semitism than any in history. And she delivered a powerful message directly to Jewish Americans that this president has their back, unlike the previous administration that wouldn't even acknowledge the targeting of Jews. Watch.
The president has made it very clear, as he said in his statement yesterday, that yes, these anti-Semitic acts of violence are do qualify as terrorism, and he does not want to see terrorism or violence of any form taking place in the United States of America. And as for specifically anti-Semitic terrorism and anti-Semitic acts of violence and those that are targeting Jewish Americans, this administration has done more to combat that violence than any administration in history. And one incident is one too many. And I think, frankly, that's something the previous administration was not willing to say. This president will stand up for Americans of all religions, of all faiths, of all creeds, and we will continue to look at policy measures and actions that we can take in addition to the actions that have already been taken to curb this anti-Semitic violence. And to Jewish Americans at home, across the country, this president has your back.
That's what real leadership looks like, naming the evil and promising to destroy it. On foreign policy, she reminded the press of what Trump accomplished in just 4 months. Last year, when direct talks between Russia and Ukraine were inconceivable, now they're happening because Trump demanded it. Special Envoy Witkoff delivered a detailed proposal to Iran with a clear message: accept it or face grave consequences. Watch.
I would just like to remind everybody how far we have come in just 4 months. I mean, it was inconceivable last year at this time for Russia and Ukraine to be engaged in direct talks. And it's because of the president's insistence and determination to get this war to an end that these countries sat down yesterday. So he's willing to use sanctions if he needs them, and the Senate and the Capitol Hill understand that the president is the commander-in-chief and he's leading United States foreign policy as he should.
No more pallets of cash. No more weakness, just American strength forcing our enemies to the table. Watch.
The president made his position very clear on Truth Social last night. In fact, it couldn't be any more clear, and I would reiterate that's his position. Special Envoy Witkoff sent a very detailed and acceptable proposal to the Iranian regime that the president hopes they will accept, and if not, they will face grave consequences, as the president himself has reiterated.
Iran knows that Trump means business. Every rogue regime on earth is adjusting to the new reality. Perhaps the most revealing moment, though, came when Leavitt exposed the Congressional Budget Office as a partisan joke. Not a single CBO staffer has donated to Republicans since 2000, but they donate to Democrats every cycle. They were wrong about Trump's 2017 tax cuts by $500 billion, yet media treats their biased analyses as gospel. Watch.
I would add the Congressional Budget Office has been historically wrong. In fact, they predicted the Trump tax cuts from the president's first term in 2017. Their prediction was wrong by $500 billion. Those tax cuts had nearly $500 billion more of revenue than the Congressional Budget Office scored. And I would also point out, I don't think many people know this, there hasn't been a single staffer in the entire Congressional Budget Office that has contributed to a Republican since the year 2000. But guess what? There have been many staffers within the Congressional Budget Office who have contributed to Democrat candidates and politicians every single cycle since. So unfortunately, this is an institution in our country that has become partisan and political, and we are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill. There is $1.6 trillion in savings, and our Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, is a fiscal hawk. He is well known in this city for being a well-respected fiscal hawk. He has tools at his disposal to produce even more savings. And as you know, the White House will be sending our rescissions package to Capitol Hill today.
The entire system is rigged against conservatives, but we're winning anyway. She also destroyed the BBC for publishing multiple false headlines about Israel killing civilians, only to retract them after all footage was reviewed that showed nothing. She declared the Trump administration doesn't take Hamas' word as truth, unlike some in the media. Watch.
There are now reports that Israeli forces are firing on Palestinians trying to get aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Up to 20 people, according to the Red Cross, have arrived to the hospital that they've set up with gunshot wounds, have died from them. Is this administration aware of these? And I mean, what is being done to address this situation?
The administration is aware of those reports, and we are currently looking into the veracity of them because, unfortunately, unlike some in the media, we don't take the word of Hamas with total truth. We like to look into it when they speak. Unlike the BBC, who had multiple headlines, they wrote, Israeli tank kills 26, Israeli tank kills 21, Israeli gunfire kills 31, Red Cross says 21 people were killed in an aid incident, and then, oh wait, they had to correct and take down their entire story, saying we reviewed the footage and couldn't find any evidence of anything. Oh, okay, so we're going to look into reports before we confirm them from this podium or before we take action, and I suggest that journalists who actually care about truth do the same to reduce the amount of misinformation that's going around the globe on this front.
Finally, someone calling out media blood libels against Israel from the White House podium. When baited about Pride Month proclamations, Leavitt shut it down perfectly. Trump is president for all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed. No special months, no identity politics, just equal treatment under the law. Watch.
Does the president have any plans on making a proclamation, or is it just going to be June this year?
Well, there are no plans for a proclamation for the month of June, but I can tell you this president is very proud to be a president for all Americans, regardless of race, religion, or creed.
American pride. That's what it is. And that's how you handle gotcha questions with clarity and conviction. So the press briefing was more than just answering questions. It was a declaration of war against media lies. Every fake narrative was destroyed with facts. Every manipulation was exposed with truth. The days of propaganda disguised as journalism are over. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. Karoline Leavitt just showed America what happens when truth meets lies head on. No more cowering before fake news, no more letting propaganda pass as journalism. She exposed Biden's protection of a synagogue terrorist, revealing the child rapist Democrat shield in sanctuary cities, and demolished the Washington Post's refusal to credit Trump for crushing fentanyl trafficking. This is what we've needed for decades. A press secretary who doesn't just answer questions, but destroys false narratives with documented facts. The media, well, they're panicking now because they can't manipulate someone who comes prepared with receipts. Every briefing exposes their bias, their lies, and their desperate attempt to prop up failed policies while ignoring Trump's success. The contrast with Biden's press team is staggering. We went from covering up cognitive decline to exposing criminal aliens. So here's the question. Should press briefings include fact-checking journalists in real time, like Leavitt did to the BBC? Let me know your thoughts below. And support truth-telling of the Next News Network by grabbing your gear, because we are White House credentialed and we're in the room.